Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wolf Pack. I'm so excited to have you all here today. As always, today we're talking about Warbonds Battle for Vitoria. And if you are interested in this game, go ahead and check out the links down below. Huge thank you to Punkfist Studios for sponsoring today's video. And also a huge thank you to Stella and Taryn from Meeple University for making such a wonderful tutorial that was extremely helpful in putting together today's video and commercial. So Stella and Taryn, thank you all so much. With that said, let's go ahead and get started with today's preview. All right, in Warbonds Battle for Vitoria, it's a 2 to 5 player game where you're fighting with a medieval fantasy army in order to reign supreme in Vitoria. You have an asymmetric warlord who's going to lead your army as you're playing the game, and you can actually make decisions that'll change the leadership of your warlord, like inciting a revolt or enforcing order. Units can even become disloyal and actually leave your army or be persuaded by another warlord to join theirs. The goal of this game is to be the first to meet one of 3 conditions. 1, be the last surviving warlord and war camp. 2, be the first player to have a level 3 war camp. Or 3, have the biggest army by the time the dragon reaches the end game event. Now, what we're talking about now is for the Apprentice Edition, but I'll tell you about some changes that are made and upgrades for the Master's Edition right after. Here's how the game works. There are 4 phases in the game. You start off by taking a unit turn. You look at this initiative table in order to see the order of units, and then when it's your unit's turn, you can take 1 movement and 1 action. One important thing to note is that there are evil and there are good units, and warlords can't control the opposite. So if I have an evil warlord, I can't deploy good units and vice versa. Tell me in the comments below if you play as good or evil, because for me, I'd play as evil in a heartbeat. So let's say you're playing as an evil warlord. That means that you can start off deploying evil squad units from the war camp or onto a wild terrain. The game comes with a handy player guide that will tell you all kinds of units that you can choose to deploy. And if it's your first time playing, it'll even guide you on the order of units that you should deploy for your particular warlord. So in total, you can control up to 7 units, which is a warlord, and 6 squad units. Now in Vitoria, each of your units are given life. They can be loyal to you or potentially leave your army. They can gain loyalty throughout the game through different means, like at the end of the round, the dragon triggers a war speech. And here's where each unit can gain 1 loyalty. This is actually a currency that you can spend to do later things like interrupt duels or do a power strike where you ignore resistances or even exchange loyalty for leadership. So your units use loyalty, but your warlords gain leadership, which they can use to trigger unique abilities, like Alexandra can use Judge the Dead, so chaos and law enemies within her presence, boom, it saps their loyalty by 1. Okay, so what we talked about so far is phase 1. That's the unit phase. So you're gonna look along in the initiative order table to see which order that your units are going to activate. And then there are just a ton of decisions to consider as you're building your army, because you can choose good versus evil, chaos versus order. There are also a ton of unit attributes that you can consider as you're building them up. Each unit also has unique attributes, like flying units can move onto this sky terrain, and undead units will get damaged if they're healed. Now, units also have a ton of different stats, like a base attack damage, how many attacks to get per turn, vulnerabilities, and even resistances. Bottom line, there is a huge amount of customization when it comes to building your army. Okay, so next question is, once you deploy your army, what can they do? Let's talk about flying and combat. Now, for normal movement, your units can move up, right, left, down, typically 1 space at a time. And some types of terrain will actually slow you down, like wild terrain costs 2 movement on the ground and 3 movement if you're flying. Now, what's special about flying is that there are actually 2 units that can actually occupy the same space on the battle map, and that unit is now placed onto the sky pedestal. So flying units and ground units can then only attack each other using ranged attacks. Next, let's break down how combat generally works. So remember how each unit can take 1 movement and 1 action? Well, attacking counts as an action. So once a unit is within targeting range, you can initiate a melee or a ranged attack. The first thing that happens is you look at your APT. Then you look at the top right of your unit to see if there's any additional damage added, like these mages getting +1 if they're fighting against elementals. After APT, you look at your basic attack damage, which is usually 1. And just like APT, sometimes it'll be modified by an ability on the top right. Now, this damage is also going to have a type, like ice damage or acid damage, and there are 8 types of damage in total. Now, these types matter because they'll factor into a unit's resistance and immunity when attacking. So overall in combat, you're multiplying attacks per turn by basic attack damage after both have been modified by abilities, stats, and damage type. Some attacks can even cause splash damage, where the damage is shared with nearby units, and area damage where everyone in range would get attacked. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. We know how unit movement, unit action, and unit combat all generally works. So if you take a movement and an action all in the same turn, this unlocks a requirement for a full turn ability. For instance, Rufus's Tattoo Ritual gives a turn to an ally squad unit, but then deals damage to themselves. Now you can also take up to 3 turn abilities on top of that, like Tangus's Fire Frenzy, which heals himself, and then powers up his Axe's attack, and then makes it cause fire damage. Now the last thing I want to highlight in this phase is the Warlord duel. This is where 2 Warlords will dish it out, choosing to attack each other back and forth, but then units around the battle can still interrupt the duel, and that's important because if your Warlord takes too much damage and dies, you are eliminated from the game. The winner of a duel would gain 3 war points, and this is how you're able to upgrade your war camp, and this is of course one of the winning conditions. Okay, up next, war camps. They can actually move around if they're in their caravan form. War camps could also get attacked and be the attacker just like your units. And then we go into phase 3 where units can get recalled from the battle map. Now it's important to recall your units because they can collect loyalty refunds. So from there, the last part is the end of round events. The dragon moves through a whole series of events making its way to end the game. The war speech is how you gain loyalty and leadership. Persuasion is where you're trying to get other people's units to join your army. You have influence the public, like what we mentioned earlier, is how you can bid leadership in order to gain 2 war tokens. And then lastly, battle cry lets you gain 1 leadership. So that's how the Apprentice Edition generally works. And then from there, let's talk about the Masters Edition. This edition adds in an extra player, bringing the player count to 2 to 6 players. You also have to manage your resources better because now, in order to deploy units, they're going to cost gold instead of just deploying units for free like in the Apprentice Edition. You also will get 7 more Warlords, more squad units. There's a brand new type of unit called Elite Units. And then also you get 8 terrain types instead of 3. The map here also has a ton of new terrain integrated into the Masters Edition, and up top there are now settlements which are incorporated into the game. These are similar to war camps, but they produce gold, provision HP and supplies, and also restock members. Victory conditions also advance, so now you have to have a level 4 war camp or be the first player to protect your brand new settlement until it reaches level 6. Now that right there is a general preview for Warbonds Battle for Vitoria, both the Apprentice Edition and the Masters Edition. If you have any questions about this, let me know down in the comments below. Links to the campaign if you're interested in the description box below. And if you made it all the way here, comment Warlord for all the massive amounts of warlords that we have access to in playing this game. With that said, thank you so much for Punkthis Studios for sponsoring today's preview video. And a huge thanks to all of you as always. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one.